Sir Michael always and ever PNG proud. Workers' union divided over unholy marriage. And China's offering to PNG Elections arrive.
This is National MTV News with Meriba Tulo.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Tuesday's news. On the eve of his departure from active politics, Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare continues to say farewell to a nation. It is a sense of pride that pushed a young Michael Somare to ensure that PNG became independent of its colonizers. Speaking to Sarah Aupong this afternoon, it was clear that sense of pride has not wavered.
We caught up with the Grand Chief on a rare occasion when he was not in the middle of a crowd. It was a quiet visit in his office, the last he will occupy in the National Parliament as he exits active politics after 49 years.
Minusabi, yes. When the question is asked of me, I said, Mr. Toki Morrison, why by me answering you? Give me one good reason. Unless I'm given a good reason, then I'll do it.
His identity as someone of stature did not waver in the face of colonialism. This sense of pride and identity spurred him on to find a different path from his school teacher training.
When I came to Legislative Council, I said to myself, I can be a member of a Legislative Council because I understand white man's understanding and I got an education equivalent to some of these white people. Why should I waste my time then? I should run for Parliament. So that's what motivated me. I saw some Papua New Guineans and Peter Luce, we always admire him.
And Sir Peter Luce, the man who introduced him to the Legislative Council, is a man that he continues to admire.
He was one example of someone who didn't get the formal education, who could stand up and debate and make contribution to the debates in Parliament. And I admire him for that one, And there were other educated people who were there. But when you look at it, Sir Peter, of all our people, when you talk about Papua New Guinea being or the people of Papua New Guinea or primitive man in the south or something, that old fella, he was smart.
The Grand Chief says a strong factor in his political life and in surviving nearly 50 years in politics are his customary values.
Bisa bianin tradition belum ipla, custom belum ipla. Nah, one kind passing me style of government meeting also. You must show him example. The maliang pelaman Amerika, lemas bianin mesti pasin belum doktor, pasin belum gopas belum ting. Pasin belum singaw timol manika. Des belum pasin belum tunggu na istangwam demi nami. So make him the work him now. We've been successful long end, 50 years. That's very long time,
Yeah. Not bad at all. Yeah. Sarah Aupong, National MTV News.
A farewell program for Sir Michael will begin at the National Parliament tomorrow morning. The program is expected to start at 10 a.m. at the National Parliament, proceed to the Constitutional Park, followed by a motorcade to the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium after a brief stopover at the Agriculture Office in Konidobu. At the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium, a program hosted by the NCD Governor and the Motu Koitabu people will take place. The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary will farewell Grand Chief Sir Michael with a Guard of Honour parade. Police Commissioner Gary Baki says planning has already started and the parade will be staged in Port Moresby. The parade will be the constabulary's sign of respect and acknowledgement of Sir Michael's contribution of service to the nation.
The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary will do a ceremonial farewell for the old man. And I have already planned that and I'm stopped. And we go back on Monday, but long up Tuesday next week, all the additional commanders will be by come. Now, but me give him all instruction. La one something by me play walking inside Lotusla. So.
Many union worker associations have disassociated themselves from the latest alliances between People's Progress Party and a minority of the mainline workers' union. At the risk of offending their fellow unions, they have condemned the alliance, calling it an unholy marriage, which goes against the founding principles of workers' unions. Melisi Goviro reports.
Representatives from the Coalition of Public Sector Unions, or COPSU, including teachers, maritime and nurses union to name a few, said they were astounded by the decision. They claim they had no knowledge of the MOU that was signed to bind the alliance, categorically denying any involvement.
The public sector unions and the maritime and transport workers union disassociate ourselves from this marriage.
Spokesperson and president of the COPSU, Ugwalubu Moana, has speculated that there were indications that the alliance was driven by political interest, but gave no specific details.
With all due respect to our union leaders who are involved, and with all due respect to our national leader and leader of the People's Progress Party, I call on all of them to recheck their conscience in having that marriage forged last week.
In 2016, Ben Micah, leader of the PPP, was quoted saying the spill and fill process that put over 500 telecom employees out of jobs was necessary. According to Moana, it was under Micah's leadership as the Public Enterprise Minister in 2015 that up to 700 maritime and PNG power workers faced unemployment because the minister chose not to support them. These, Moana said, are the same unions who have engaged in political alliance with PPP. To that end, Moana has called on the unions involved to seriously reconsider the alliance.
He may be having a motive to destabilize the union movement.
The unions who have declared their disassociation with the political alliance have chosen to maintain their integrity as worker unions based on their founding principles, to remain politically neutral while representing the workforce of PNG. The Combined Trade Union has been under the clouds for a long time, and this division goes down as just another entry. Melisi Goviro, National EMTV News.
133 vehicles were donated by the Chinese government to provide logistics and support for the 2017 national elections. The vehicles arrived in Port Moresby today and were transported to Mari Barracks to be officially handed over to the Papua New Guinea government. Present to witness the event were Electoral Commissioner Batilius Gamato, Department of Planning Secretary Hakawa Heri, Chinese government officials and invited guests.
The 133 vehicles were transported to Mari Barracks in Port Moresby for the official handover by the Chinese government to the government of Papua New Guinea. Charged the Affairs of China Wang Genhua, while speaking to officially hand over the vehicles to the Papua New Guinea government, said these vehicles will enhance economic cooperation between the two countries.
They are the technicians from the pickup that Fulton's company. They came especially for the technical maintenance of the vehicles. They are a 6-people team, and they came especially from China and especially for the maintenance of these vehicles.
The 133 vehicles were donated by the Chinese government upon request by the Department of Planning and Monitoring to facilitate logistics and support for the 2017 national elections.
We're here to officially hand over for the representative of the People's Republic of China to officially hand over 133 vehicles to the government of Papua New Guinea for us to hand over to Electoral Commission to effectively conduct the coming elections. We're happy and we appreciate the assistance that the People's Republic of China, the government, has been giving to our country.
Electoral Commissioner Patilis Gamato said the elections are a major exercise and this will help a lot in managing costs and assisting election officials get to places accessible by roads.
The contribution of the photon vehicles will greatly assist the PNG Electoral Commission in for us to manage the cost and reduce the cost, especially in the hire of vehicles. These vehicles will assist us manage the hire of vehicles within urban areas and those roads, those places accessible by roads.
The PNG Defence Force, Police and Correctional Service will get 15 of these vehicles each to provide security during elections. Eric Arupma, National MTV News.
The Provincial Electoral Office in Morobe has recorded a total of 276 candidates contesting the national elections. Election Manager Simon Soheke says from the figures collected, 10 are women. He said the number of candidates contesting this year has slightly increased.
From the total of 4,068 intending candidates in the country, 276 of them are from Morobe. A final list of intending candidates will be revealed after the nominations close on the 27th of this month. But Leh District has 48 intending candidates. 3 of them are women, including the current Leh MP Luzia Koza, who is looking to retain her seat. Leh has the highest number before Finchafen with 40 candidates, followed by Nawai with 38. 17 intending candidates will be contesting the Morobe regional seat.
Morobe total now is 266, 266 males, 10 females, bringing us to a total of 276. As I've said earlier, this figure is what we have collected in our office, but those people who have submitted their Form 29 at headquarters in Mosby, we don't have that information, but as per the newspaper reports, I believe it's going to go up. That number is gone up, so but again we will confirm during the close of nominations.
Nominations will be conducted in the districts. All open electorate candidates are urged to lodge their nomination in their respective districts. The Provincial Electoral Office will only deal with candidates contesting the regional seat.
So I'm appealing to all the open electorate candidates, intending candidates, to submit or lodge their nominations in the districts. In the provincial level, I won't be accepting nominations. I will be dealing with the regional seat only. As we all know now, the fees is 1,000, and I believe, or I'm assuming, we will have an increase in the actual number of people who will be nominating. May I also state that for a regional seat, nominations will be collected at the Leh District together with the Leh District office, Leh District Open, but we will be setting up a separate area at the Leh District office.
Meanwhile, the provincial office has until Monday to complete the roll updates before it is sent to Port Moresby. Soeke is adamant the roll updates will be completed in the next 5 days. He is also encouraging voters to be responsible and take ownership of the election.
Currently, we are now receiving our roll objections back. We are receiving, so maybe we are trying to complete this one, this exercise by end of this week, to be sent back to Mosby, and then we have the final rolls prior to the nominations, which will be on the 20th. So we are hoping that by the 17th, we should have our rolls back, the completed ones. From as I am speaking, objection rolls are now being forwarded back from various districts, and we have only 5 days, I should say, 5 days to complete this job, but I believe we can manage within this time limit.
Mata Luis, National MTV News, Leh.
National MTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. 6 police women were among 24 police officers who completed a human rights training in Goroka, Eastern Highlands Province. The training is a response the Eastern Highlands Provincial Command is taking to address the abuse of human rights within the province.
The officers who participated came from the 9 districts in Eastern Highlands. The training was facilitated by the Police College and conducted in partnership with United Nations Office of Commissioner for Human Rights. It was funded by the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Eastern Highlands Provincial Police Commander Alex N. Russell acknowledged the support from the facilitators and encouraged his officers to be alert on human rights-related issues. The HR training covered critical human rights aspects relating to policing, including non-discrimination, ethics, arrests and detention, use of force, and policing protests and assemblies. PPC and Russell encouraged the participants to also share the knowledge to their colleagues. Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Security agencies in Tokwa, East New Britain, are preparing for APEC security operations. 75 participants from these agencies underwent a 4-day course on aviation security, bomb search and risk management. These agencies include the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary, the National Airports Corporation and Air New Guinea. The training is a lead-up to the APEC Summit in 2018 and was conducted through the PNG Australian Federal Police Joint Policing Program. Similar training was already conducted in Nadzap, Morobe, Gurney Alta and Kaveng in New Island Province. Gantom Primary School in Leh has made history in launching their 5-year infrastructure development plan for the first time since its inception in 1981. This was done to address problems such as low-quality education, unsafe learning environments, and to cater for the overcrowding of classrooms. The primary school is located at West Taraka Settlement, an area known for law and order issues.
Gantom Primary School was delighted to present the 5-year infrastructure development plan to the Leh district today. This was an initiative of a consultant team who stepped in to help the school with its operation. The proposal was submitted since the school's establishment in 1981.
The district can assist in whichever way possible if various schools come with their proposal.
Gantom Primary School is not well known like other schools in the province. The school had not received any sort of funding from both the district through the DSIP funds and the Morobe provincial government. It has problems with water supply, overcrowding of students, and no proper sanitation system.
This year, 2017, we have about 1,141 students, and we are short of classrooms. And now we have asked the teachers to use the library as their venue to have their briefings and meetings, while the staff room has been converted into a classroom.
The district education manager said the government's TFF policy is not working and is calling on parents to support the school.
We discovered that department supposed to pay around 270 kina per child. Now we discover that department is not paying this amount. It's paying less every year, which really insufficient and cannot help the school, especially in infrastructure wise.
The new development plan will help the school progress and lessen some of its problems. Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Leh.
Polling of the community government elections on the autonomous Bougainville government is running smoothly without any disturbances. Bougainville's acting electoral commissioner, George Manu, is happy of the election's progress that is very important for Bougainville's future political status. Our journalist, Fabian Hakalitz, visited several polling sites and files this report from Buka.
EMTV News today visited several polling sites for the conduct of the community government elections. It has been a smooth start as reported by the Bougainville Electoral Commission.
We've been planted Manstret, a total of 250 voters have been come. Today we've got 130 voters already only come.
Mr. Jokasari says with the community government, it gives power to people to actively participate in planning and development.
It is now only looks our community government now emulsam road lo paving way through referendum.
Meanwhile, MTV News also visited the Hagogohe constituency. Polling in most parts of North Bougainville, according to the Bougainville Electoral Commission, is complete, and some parts of Central and South Bougainville. And the Community Government Act constitutes equal number of men and women are to contest elections, and that is to promote gender equality and the spirit of the temporary special measures to allow more women in Parliament.
And that is something that, in line with our commitment to uphold gender equity.
In Boca, Fabian Haklitz, National MTV News.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina opened unchanged at $0.3145 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.307, $0.4063 Australian dollars, $0.2876 euro, and 33.73 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold closed higher, while coffee, cocoa, and copper closed the day lower. Crude oil closed the day higher, while palm oil and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed 1 point higher, the ASX closed 27 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed 25 points lower. You're watching National MTV News. Stories making headlines overseas. When we return, the tensions between US and North Korea, the Group of 7 meeting, and to discuss Syria and the bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, despite nuclear tensions between the US and North Korea, the mood in the streets of Pyongyang is very different. CNN's Will Ripley is the only American TV correspondent in the North Korean capital.
Facing mounting global pressure to stop testing nuclear weapons, many fear North Korean leader Kim Jong-un might accelerate his weapons program, and they're waiting for his next move. On Saturday, North Korea celebrates the Day of the Sun, their most important holiday of the year, honoring the birth of the nation's founding father, Kim Il-sung. 5 years ago, North Korea tried to launch a satellite just 2 days before the Day of the Sun. The first attempt failed, followed by a successful launch later that year. Now, North Korea may be ready for another dramatic show of force. After a series of missile launches, U.S. and South Korean intelligence officials believe North Korea is ready to conduct a nuclear test at any time. In response to recent provocations, the U.S. is rerouting the carrier strike group Carl Vinson to the Korean Peninsula, just days after President Trump's surprise missile strike on Syria. Some view the strike as a warning to North Korea. The U.S. is willing to respond with force if provoked. The situation is so tense. We're at the brink of war, says this Pyongyang resident. But if that happens, we'll all go to the front lines to fight the Americans. President Trump may be trying to put pressure on North Korea to stop developing nuclear weapons. But here in Pyongyang, that pressure seems to be having the opposite effect. One North Korean government official tells CNN, the aggressive acts of war on the part of the United States are getting increasingly reckless. In response, we will continue to strengthen our self-defense capability. North Korea is working to develop an intercontinental ballistic missile that can deliver a nuclear warhead to the mainland U.S. Most analysts say they don't have one yet, but it's only a matter of time. We think we're very capable of defending ourselves, this Pyongyang resident says, because we have the strong leadership of Marshal Kim Jong-un. The mood inside North Korea is not tense, but festive on their biggest holiday week of the year. Tens of thousands are visiting national landmarks, like the birthplace of late President Kim Il-sung. The two late leaders. For the first time, CNN cameras are allowed inside the Museum of the Korean Revolution. More than 120 rooms, chronicling all 3 generations of Kim family leadership. This rare inside look at North Korean history shows the entire nation is built around these 3 men. I'm shown footage from 2011, when North Koreans learned of the unexpected death of the nation's second leader, Kim Jong-il. The footage brings our guide to tears. Now, their supreme leader, Kim Jong-un, is leading her and 25 million North Koreans, like his grandfather and father before him. He has absolute power over the lives of his people.
Foreign ministers from the G7 group are meeting in Italy over the next 2 days to seek a united front against Syria following last week's suspected chemical weapons attack. They are also expected to pressure Russia to distance itself from Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
America's Secretary of State is in Italy to turn up the international heat on Syria's President Assad and his Russian backers. Rex Tillerson very deliberately joined an international wreath-laying at the memorial to a Nazi atrocity here in 1944, the massacre of local villagers. Then he drew a direct parallel to last week's gas attack in Syria's Idlib province.
We rededicate ourselves to holding to account any and all who commit crimes against the innocents anywhere in the world.
Then President Trump's foreign minister, the man who'll go to Moscow later this week, met Boris Johnson, the foreign secretary, who cancelled his visit to be here instead. They're working together to get the widest possible internationally agreed challenge to the Russians.
We will be discussing the possibility of further sanctions, certainly on some of the Syrian military figures and indeed on some of the Russian military figures.
But President Assad's major backers, Iran and Russia, have now warned of military retaliation if President Trump repeats last Friday's cruise missile strikes. This evening, G7 ministers, all but one of them NATO members too, are starting to explore new pressures they could apply, knowing full well that Russia has so far stuck firmly with President Assad and his regime.
American Airlines is investigating an incident following public outcry over a man being violently dragged from his seat on a domestic flight.
These are the disturbing moments that have now traveled around the world. Several smartphones record as 3 police hover over a man who is being forced to exit the aircraft. The situation quickly escalates after one officer manhandles him out of his chair.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
All 3 officers then drag him, bloodied and injured, from the cabin.
No, this is wrong! Oh my God! Look at what you did to him!
The incident began when United Airlines asked for volunteers to give up their seats for additional crew members. When none were found, they chose passengers at random, but this man refused. One passenger said he claimed to be a doctor who had patients he needed to see.
Good work. Way to go.
10 minutes later, in unexplained circumstances, the man, clearly shaken up, runs back on the plane. United Airlines, in a statement, said our team is moving with a sense of urgency to work with the authorities and conduct our own detailed review of what happened. We are also reaching out to this passenger to talk directly to him and further address and resolve this situation.
That's what makes the world's leading airline flyer-friendly.
The airline has been criticized for its handling of the situation that some say clearly contrasts with its claim to fly the friendly skies.
Australia's Great Barrier Reef is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, but scientists say rising water temperatures have stripped the color from 2/3 of it. Mass bleaching happens when the coral gets stressed and could be in danger of being destroyed.
A world of brilliant colour teeming with life. This is the Great Barrier Reef at its best. The largest single biological structure on Earth, but vulnerable to the slightest change. This is how parts of the reef look now. A ghostly white. The corals more like a graveyard than a thriving habitat. A new survey has found long stretches of the reef have turned pale for the 2nd year running, giving the corals no chance to recover. And the scientist in charge says he's worried.
It seems likely that between this event and last event, roughly 50% of the corals on the Great Barrier Reef will have died in a period of less than 18 months. That by any measure is a huge blow to the Great Barrier Reef.
Now, last year, scientists found that the northern third of the Great Barrier Reef was most badly hit. That's where the waters are usually warmest. This time, the central section has suffered worst, and that's surprising because usually the waters there are slightly cooler. And being bleached 2 years running makes it all the harder for the corals to recover. It can take a decade at least. Some corals are weaker than others and are less likely to survive in warmer waters. So scientists are trying to find out which ones may recover.
If a coral bleaches year after year, then that is going to reduce its ability to recover. So 2 years in a row is worrying.
The reef faces all kinds of threats, from pollution to industrial development. But on top of them, there's climate change, bringing higher temperatures, which makes bleaching ever more likely.
NASA is set to launch its third super pressure balloon from Wanaka Airport in New Zealand tomorrow. This follows NASA's launch attempts a few days earlier, which were stood down for various reasons related to weather.
A purpose-built point for discovery right here in Wanaka. The launch pad is on land exclusively leased by NASA, who've signed a 10-year commitment to use it as a super pressure balloon launch base.
And we're excited to come back. We may not be back every year because we may have science priorities at other foreign locations, but at least we've locked in to be able to come back here for our science.
2 successful launches in the last 2 years have proven Wanaka's suitability. However, they've each come with a number of cancelled attempts, shutting down Wanaka Airport and airport businesses like skydive operators for hours each time. One of the major benefits of this pad is during a launch attempt it allows the airport to remain open. If inflation of the balloon begins, however, the airport will be closed temporarily. It gets filled with helium to float off to 33,000 kilometres above us. This year's balloon will carry 2.5 tonnes of equipment pointed back at Earth, looking for cosmic rays hitting our atmosphere.
Original part is that you do astronomy, looking at the stars, but looking downwards. This is something extremely new and unexplored. Well, we now have seen several of them, but they're extremely rare. Say there is 1 per square kilometre per century.
Peter van Velmos says hundreds of scientists around the globe are eagerly awaiting the findings. Wind direction will ultimately determine when a launch will go ahead. Once liftoff goes ahead, the hope is to break the super balloon flight record of 54 days.
You're watching National EMTV News. Trukai Sports is next. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. To cricket, the Hebo PNG Barramundis concluded round 5 of the Intercontinental Cup last night. Unfortunately, after trailing by 95 runs on day 3 of the competition against the Emirates, they were not able to recuperate on the final day, yesterday going down by 9 wickets.
The Barras resumed day 4 on 4 for 152. Unfortunately, the Emirates had already posted 8 for 441 the day before. The chase was ramped up by Lega Siaka when he ran down his maiden century in an effort to close the gap on the scoreboard. Despite Siaka's 142 running streak, which substantially consisted of 23 boundaries, the total team score fell short at just 286. The next innings saw the Emirates having no issues chasing down the 40-run target in less than 6 overs, losing just 1 wicket on the way. They have now improved their standing to the 7th place on the points ladder with 27 points, while the Barramundis remain 4th with 40 points. But that would mean Ireland, currently in the 3rd placing, are now way ahead of PNG by way of points. Dini Rose Raiko, National EMTV Sports.
Still on cricket, the 2015-17 World Cricket League Championship has 2 rounds to go before it wraps up, and the competition's top 4 will proceed to the World Cup qualifiers in March 2018. Currently sitting on the points ladder second to Netherlands, the Barramundis have a decent chance of making it through. Following PNG are Hong Kong and Scotland. The last 2 rounds will decide which 2 remain in the top 4. A cheque of 35,000 kina was presented today to PNG AFL by CEO of Kina Security Limited, CD8. The Vice Chairman of PNG AFL Commission, Loy Bakani, thanked Kina Security for the ongoing support, adding the funds will go towards the administration and running of the 2017 season.
With only 2 weeks into the pre-season competition, PNG AFL Commission Vice Chairman Loy Bakani said today's sponsorship from Kina Securities Limited will help Port Moresby AFL carry out their local tournaments. Kina Securities Limited CEO Sid Yates said their support to help AFL Port Moresby will continue in helping the players and the administration.
Kina Bank's proud to announce an ongoing sponsorship for the AFL Port Moresby. We've been doing this since 2013, and this year we've announced a sponsorship of 35,000 Kina.
Yates said working with PNG AFL and AFL Port Moresby, it is important that the approach from both parties is in a good manner and to keep the relationship ongoing.
It's important that when we work with an organisation such as AFL Port Moresby, is that they stand by our principles and conduct their games in a good manner. They preach good messages to their participants and to their clubs, and obviously have good administration.
PNG AFL Commission Vice Chairman Loy Bakani acknowledged the sponsorship from the Kina Securities Limited for their support since their involvement with AFL Port Moresby since 2013. Mr. Bakani said despite having difficulties with training and competition grounds, this season is expected to see 10 teams when the proper season begins on the 22nd of April.
Sponsorship goes for us in AFL POM, having difficulties with the ground. So this year, starting from last year, we secured the Coles ground from the PNG Sports Foundation.
Mr. Bakani said with the growing number of AFL enthusiasts around the country, more and more programs will be established to get both boys and girls involved with AFL.
We have a pathway with what they call the new kick, which is the junior one, school boys, school children playing. Unfortunately, at the senior level, the one that is a competition that is quite running throughout Papua New Guinea is the Port Moresby, AFL Port Moresby.
Meanwhile, both juniors and senior players have already started their training for Under-16 Queensland State Championships, which will take place in Brisbane this month, and the national men's team, the Mosquitoes, who are looking forward to defending their 2014 International Cup title in Melbourne, Australia. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
The Papua New Guinea Netball Federation has just made known position vacancies for a coach, assistant coach and a team manager. Interested applicants are advised to send in their applications before the 20th of this month. Federation President Julian Leka Maliaki says the current team management has reached its term, and this recruitment is in search for professionals who will be with the national team, the Pepes, for the next 2 years. International commitments during that time include the Mini Pacific Games in Vanuatu and the Nations Cup Series in Singapore. Basketball, Easter Challenge and football, those stories after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Basketball PNG will be hosting its inaugural Easter Challenge for the 3x3 competition this Friday. More teams are expected to be included in the Easter Challenge in the coming days.
Alongside the senior men's and women's division, junior players will also have the opportunity to battle with categories open to under 18 boys and girls. Basketball PNG CEO Joel Kalu said the 3x3 style was established to suit basketball players throughout the country. He said the 3x3 hoops is dynamic and fast-paced, so it's a perfect fit for our Papua New Guinean athletes. He said it's also a game that generates great flair, which is fantastic for spectators. Each game will only last 10 minutes, bringing a non-stop excitement of great basketball action. Teams will face off in their respective divisions throughout the day until the champions are crowned. In order to win the whole challenge, some teams may end up playing 6, 7 or 8 games in one day, involving the element of fitness into the game, making it an ideal way to socialize, have fun and get some fitness from the Easter weekend. Teams wishing to participate can complete a registration form and return to Basketball Federation of Papua New Guinea office at Tarama Aquatic Centre with their 50 kina nomination fee before close of business tomorrow. The tournament draw will be designed this Thursday with the first game to kick off on Friday at 10 a.m. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Since 1998, the annual PNG soccer charity event has attracted massive interest in the nation's capital. Hosted as a seven-a-side yearly competition, the Charity Cup has grown from strength to strength, with organisers now shifting their focus off the field.
The Charity Cup, since its inception, has targeted workers in the public and private sectors and organised seven-a-side football events over the long Easter weekend. It has become a vehicle for bonding those companies, and the government has encouraged their own workers to participate. Corporate participants have included ExxonMobil, ANZ, BSP Westpac, Pum Energy, Nasfund, SP Brewery, Central Bank, FinCorp, Air New Guinea, the Lamana Group and Trophy House. Participants from the public sector have included Forestry, Justice and Attorney General, Finance Departments, Treasury Works and Customs. In terms of international relations, the US Embassy has also been a regular participant, along with accounting and law firms also. The charity's new focus is now on using the event as a pathway to helping workers wake up to the health risks associated with lifestyle changes and take conscious steps to deal with the risks so that they may live longer and healthier and more productive lives. The organizing team will be working in partnership with the National Women's Doctors Association Incorporated in advancing this new focus. Jeremy Moggy, National TV Sports.
Still on football and Canada, the USA and Mexico declared their intention to formally submit a unified bid to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup this week. The historic unified bid, which would represent the first time that three nations would jointly host a FIFA competition. The announcement was made by Football Association members from Canada, US and Mexico. The rough plan calls for approximately 60 of the matches to take place in the United States and 10 each in Mexico and Canada. And that ends Trukai Sports. We'll have the weather details for the next 24 hours when we return.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And here's a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Cloudy with rain for Port Moresby and Kerma, mostly fine for Daru, Alotau and Popondetta. To the Momasa region, showers and thunderstorms for Lae, Wau and Madang, cloudy with some periods of rain for Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, cloudy with some rain for Kavieng, some showers in Lorengau, cloudy with some showers expected in Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, all these major centres can expect some morning fog clearing, then chances of afternoon showers developing. And there is a strong wind warning still current for all coastal waters of Milne Bay, including Bogia to Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo, northern PNG Indonesian border, also from Manus to New Ireland, Bougainville to southern coast of West New Britain.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And to end the news, a recap of our main stories tonight. Grand Chief Sir Michael, always and ever PNG proud. Workers' unions divided over unholy marriage, and China's offering to Papua New Guinea elections arrive. And that's the news, sports and weather for today, Tuesday the 11th of April 2017. On behalf of the entire MTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.